So I wanted to do a quick video on just safety gear, things that you're going to want to bring with you if you do decide to come out here and sacrifice a year of your life to be a tuna pilot. Before I get too far into it, I will say, so we just left Tarawa on December 7th. Today is December 12th, so we are 5 days into it. It's 8:30 in the morning. Just finished the first flight of the day. Haven't seen shit. We've only caught 20 or 30 tons. So today we are relocating to a new fishing ground, and I also believe we're going to be meeting up with a different boat for supplies and picking up my new mechanic as well. But we'll just go ahead and jump right into it. So first things first is going to be safety gear. A lot of the stuff that I'm going to talk about is optional, some of it isn't, but something you're definitely going to want to have is going to be a life vest, a PFD that is aviation approved. So personally, the one I go with here, it's a Switlick. It's their basic model, so it just goes right over your head. They do have a couple different ones that are a bit more expensive. So they've got one that actually clips around your back and kind of zips up in front like a regular jacket. And they have one that also has pouches on either side if you need additional pockets. If you want to go for something fancy, you're definitely more than welcome to. For the most part, basic works. So you can pick one of these up for probably just under 200 bucks. And I don't know if you can tell, but this one's actually already pretty sun bleached. And then aside from that, in here, I actually keep a whistle and a signal mirror as well, just in case. Now, an important thing to keep in mind with these vests is that you do not want one that's going to be automatically inflating, right? So some of them, like Mustang, for example, they make one that as soon as it gets wet, it automatically inflates. If you're in the helicopter and this thing rolls over, you got to unclip your seatbelt and get yourself out of the helicopter before inflating. So I want to say it was a couple years back, a pilot actually took off, and if I remember correctly, his helicopter was still strapped to the deck in some way. So when he went up to take off, he actually flipped nose first over the edge of the deck. So the helicopter hit the water upside down. He had an automatically inflating vest, so his vest inflated as soon as it got wet, and then from there he wasn't able to unclip his seatbelt, and unfortunately he died. Aside from that, you gotta keep in mind these boats don't move very quickly. So if you're 35, 40 miles away from the boat, it could take them 3 hours to get there. If you've got a ditch in the water, yeah, you've got a life raft in the back of the helicopter, but you're also gonna wanna think about what happens if I have to wait 3-4 hours for the boat to come get me. So, on the back of my vest, I've got this, and it's just a Mylar shelter. It's basically a thermal blanket, but it's reflective. So if I need to, by any reason, ditch the helicopter, get in the raft, I can kind of string this up and get some shade protected from the sun while I'm waiting for a pickup. And you can honestly probably get one of these for maybe 50 bucks. Additionally, it also works pretty well as lumbar support, right? Because the seats in the helicopter are made of mesh, so they're not super comfortable. So anything you can do to kind of make your life a little bit better, especially after a 2-hour flight, definitely helpful. Aside from that, we're going to talk about the sun a little bit. Sunburns, tan lines, all that shit, it happens out here. And let me tell you, the sun is unbelievably aggressive here. Like, if you go outside and you're not covered up wearing sunscreen, or you're just fair-skinned, you're going to get a sunburn in 5 minutes. And I learned this firsthand when I got a really bad burn on my leg, and like, it was significantly worse than any sunburn I've ever had. So you've got two options. Option A, you can cover up. Option B, you can apply sunscreen every 20 minutes, or you can apply it once, really, really thickly. I mean, talk like mayonnaise on a sandwich stick. Like, that's how aggressive the sun is out here. So if you're flying for 6 hours a day, you got to keep in mind that your left side, where there is no door, is going to be exposed to the sun for 6 or more hours. So I don't know if you can tell, but my left side is actually more tan than my right side. Honestly, if I had to write a book about flying tuna, it would be called 50 Shades of Brown, except the only thing that we tie down is the helicopter at the end of the day. That's a bad joke. Anywho, so talking about the sun, your options are to, again, cover up. You can wear full sleeves or pants, whatever it may be, or my preferred method is you get some compression sleeves. Got some for your legs, some for your arms. These are great. They're lightweight. They cool you down, so they wick the sweat off of you, and they also keep the sun off you. Granted, you do look a little stupid, but I guess it's just, par for the course. Aside from that, the MD500 has got a 4-point harness. So you've got your regular belt that goes over your waist, and then you've got 2 straps that come up over your shoulders. When I got here, I was lucky enough for my helicopter to actually have some kind of pads that go over the shoulder straps. If you don't have those, or if you don't bring them with you, a good option is to get a neck gaiter. Neck gaiter slips right over. You can have it just kind of chill around your neck, and that way it'll stop the seatbelt from cutting into your neck. Additionally, if again you're fairer skinned or you just want to keep the sun off your face, you can go ahead and pull this up a little bit just to keep the sun off of your face for the rest of your flight. Continuing on with apparel. So this is kind of a topic of discussion. It's a pretty big dispute, as is. Some guys like to fly with headsets. Some guys prefer to fly with helmets. Personally, through flight school, as an instructor, I wore a headset. And this is for a couple different reasons. The first and foremost being that I'm very tall. I don't fit in R22 regularly, so trying to fit in there with a helmet rather, is going to be extremely difficult. When I came out here, a helmet is definitely something I wanted to invest in. First reason being, these MD-500s descend in an auto rotation, and we're talking 2,000 to 2,500 feet per minute. They come down very aggressively. Additionally, if you are in an auto rotation and you have to ditch into the water, you don't want to hit the water with any kind of forward airspeed, because that forward speed is going to flip you over. So, if you are doing auto rotation, you have to ditch in the water, you want to come down basically vertically with as little forward airspeed as possible. This means that in a hard landing, you're going to have a lot of spinal compression, and it's very likely that you're going to get this whiplash factor of your head whipping down. Okay, so the last thing that you want to happen, or that I want to happen, is for my head to slam into the cycle, like knock myself unconscious, helicopter flips over, next thing you know, I'm dead. So, helmet. This one is an Evo 252. They are a little bit pricey, but it's a great thing to have. So I find these to be a lot quieter when it comes down to kind of helping with the engine noise. The turbine helicopters are very loud, and most ANR headsets don't work that well when it comes to negating that turbine noise. So the one mistake I made in this, I would say, is I put a Bose headset in here. If I had to do it again, I would honestly just get a CEP kit and a Hush kit, because it works much better. You can still get Bluetooth. Aside from that, flying out here, you are flying in a bird-laden environment. If you find a raft, if you find fish, if you have to descend down to the water for whatever reason, chances are you're going to be descending into birds. I have seen firsthand what happens to a helicopter and a helicopter pilot when a bird comes through the windscreen. It is not a pretty sight. So, helmet, great safety feature to have. Additionally, aside from your regular accoutrement, this thing is going to have two visors. So you've got, personally, I've got the high-vis yellow on there, which helps in kind of low light or cloudy days. And then aside from that, I've also got the additional visor there just on sunny days, because again, it's pretty much always sunny out here. That's the helmet. Now, back to the subject of just kind of making yourself comfortable in the helicopter. A water bottle is going to be a great thing to have. So I've got this Nalgene with me. It holds, I think, what, 32 ounces, something like that. You got to have water with you for a couple different reasons. First one is it's hot, you're going to sweat, you're going to dehydrate, so it's important to stay hydrated. Second of all, again, if you have to ditch in the water and you're waiting for 4 hours on the ocean for the boat to come pick you up, you're going to want some water. So, whether you have a bottle with you that you keep up front, or I know a couple of guys that keep water bottles strapped to the raft that's in the back of the helicopter, you got to have it with you one way or another. So definitely get some kind of a water bottle. Aside from that, if you're a coffee drinker, tea drinker, your day starts when the sun comes up, right? You don't necessarily have time to kind of go through your morning routine, so sometimes you got to bring your coffee or your tea with you. Grab yourself a travel mug. This one's a cheap one. It's not great. It leaks a little bit, but it does the job I need to. So that way, if I get called at 6 in the morning to fly, like I did today, I've got some way I can bring my caffeine supplement with me. Let's see here. What's next? So still on the topic of safety. Your spotter during raft season is going to be looking for rafts. If you find a raft or payao or fad or whatever you want to call it, you're going to drop down, hover over the raft, your spotter is going to hop out on the skid, and he's going to throw ropes with weights on the end. So you've got kind of a Y shape at the end with one weight on either side, and then you've got one rope coming off that Y where it meets that's connected to the GPS buoy for your boat. So we're talking about a spotter who probably doesn't speak much English, dealing with ropes in a helicopter that's moving and flying. If he fucks up, if he throws the rope around the skid, if he throws the weight up, it's something, anything in terms of getting the rope stuck on the helicopter some way is going to be extremely dangerous. So, you're going to want to have some kind of a knife to bring in the helicopter with you. Doesn't matter if it's a pocket knife, if it's a J-hook, seatbelt cutter, something to get you out of a sticky situation. This is a SOG Seal Pup, so it's actually typically used as like a hunting knife. And then I had my buddy create this awesome custom sheath for it. So he basically set it up so it's like a dive knife right now, which means I can strap it right to my leg. For the most part, actually all the time it stays in the helicopter. And I cannot say this enough. So my buddy, he runs his own company. It's called Wit Leatherworks. He's got his own shop on Etsy. You can find him on Facebook. He does all types of custom stuff, whether it's a sheath for a knife, holsters, wallets, purses, whatever you can think of made of leather, he can do it, and he does a bang-up job. So highly recommend that. Now I know some guys are going to give me a hard time for this. Okay, flight suits are awesome. Not because they make you look cool, but because they've got a lot of pockets. So if you choose not to fly in cargo shorts all the time, I usually don't. I know some guys, again, are going to give me a hard time for this. A fanny pack is a great thing to have, because we're bringing it back. It's a good way to keep things, whether it's, MP3 player, cigarettes, lighter, or whatever it may be, easy to access, because when you're sitting down in the flying position trying to get into a regular pocket, if you don't have cargo pants again, is a huge pain in the ass. So fanny pack costs maybe $7, good investment. Moving on, more safety equipment. Garmin InReach. I think everybody out here has one of these things. I definitely wouldn't recommend coming out here without one. You're going to want to keep in touch with family and friends, and most of the time you're not going to have any kind of a cell phone signal. So you can text your family and friends using this thing. It's $50 a month, and you get the unlimited text plan or whatever it is. Additionally, right on the side there, we've got an SOS button. So if for any reason the helicopter does have to get put in the water, if your boat can't see you on their radar screens, if you've lost communication with them at any reason, you can tap that SOS button right on the side, and you'll have some kind of contact either with the boat, or in my case, I've got the emergency contacts set up to my boss and the guys back in Guam. So if I do need to get picked up out of the water and the boat doesn't know where I am, I can tap that SOS button. It's going to send my signal, or my location rather, to the guys in Guam. They can contact the company and they can come get me out of the water. Last but not least, music. I cannot imagine what it would be like out here to fly for 6 hours a day, because keep in mind, there's no scenery, right? You're staring at water all the time. So, flying for 6 hours a day with no music is going to be miserable. Whether you choose to have a phone, or in my case, an MP3 player, is completely up to you. I chose an MP3 player for a couple of different reasons. First of all, this thing is smaller, it's got better battery life, and it can hold more. Second of all, this is an iPhone 11. It's fucking huge, okay? I don't know what happened in the world to think that phones getting this big is going to be acceptable. I can barely fit this thing in my pocket. I don't know how women deal with it. So it's kind of like, remember, I'm going to age myself here a little bit. Remember back in the day when you had a Walkman, this portable CD player? Great to have, bring your music with you. Problem was it couldn't fit in your fucking pocket unless you had a poofy jacket, which was the style at the time. I'm sure that's going to come back eventually. So we've gone from phones getting smaller, in the early 2000s or whatever it may be, and now we're kind of regressing a little bit to the point where phones, MP3 players, your music devices are getting to the point where they no longer fit in your pocket. This is the size of a cell phone in 1965. This is dumb. Just my 2 cents. And then, last of all, whether you wear a watch or not, you're going to want to have some kind of stopwatch or something to take time in the helicopter. I always wear a watch. You don't have to get a fancy one. You can bring a cheap one along with you, or just get a stopwatch and put it in the helicopter. My fuel gauge is not super accurate. Most of them aren't. I was able to figure out my fuel burn in the helicopter by timing how long it took for the pump on the boat to fill a 5-gallon bucket. So, if I knew how much fuel I burned over the course of a 2-hour flight, and then how long it took to refill the tank, I was able to figure out that my helicopter burns around 120 pounds. So we're talking just around 17 or 18 gallons per hour, which isn't bad for a turbine helicopter at all. But because the fuel gauges are typically unreliable, having some kind of way to measure how long you've been flying is going to be huge. 2-hour flights are pretty well enforced out here. If you ever have to extend over that, it's usually because you as the pilot fucked up and didn't think about how far away you were from the boat and how long it would take you to get back, or it's because you've had to skirt around some kind of weather. So these are good things to keep in mind. And that pretty much sums it up. That is everything that I fly with. I am probably going to do a separate video later on just kind of how much these things cost, where you can get them. Again, for helmets, I highly recommend going to helicopterhelmets.com. They've got a store in Melbourne, Florida, also known as Aviation Survival Gear. And for any leather needs that you might have, I highly recommend Wit Leatherworks. He's got a shop on Etsy. You can find him on Facebook. As always, thank you so much for watching. Please feel free to like and subscribe to these videos. And as always, if you have questions, comments, whatever it is, you can go ahead, hit me up. And as soon as I have any kind of internet, I'll be sure to respond. Thanks for watching.